Going from prototype to scale or niche segment to mass market requires capital. Often the capital required is far greater than can be bootstrapped by the entrepreneur. Many entrepreneurs raise seed capital from family members, friends, and angel investors, and debt capital from individuals, credit cards, banks, and alternative lending platforms such as the Lending Club. For the entrepreneur contemplating a venture investment to support the scaling up journey, it is important to answer a couple of questions. In his book, Secrets of Sand Hill Road, Scott Cooper, the venture capitalist, says that one of the first questions the entrepreneurs must ask is whether venture capital is right for them. As he says, just as with product market fit, where we care about how well your product satisfies a specific need, you need to determine whether your company is appropriate for venture capital. No matter how interesting or stimulating your business, if the ultimate size of the opportunity isn't big enough to create a standalone, self-sustaining business of scale, it may not be a candidate for venture financing. Venture capital is a better source of capital than loans for most startups that are scaling up because they're unlikely to generate positive cash flow, have a high probability of failure, and will likely experience prolonged periods of illiquidity. But venture capital comes with strings attached. Not only will the entrepreneur have to give up a portion of her equity stake, the entrepreneur will have to share decision-making rights with the venture capitalist. As Scott Cooper says, the answer is to raise as much money as you can that enables you to safely achieve the key milestones you will need for the next fundraising. What the key milestones have in common is that risk is reduced. The startup has developed its products, acquired key customers, and met some financial and operational targets. Hitting these milestones mean that the next round of investors will reward you with a higher valuation. One school of thought says that companies would do well to avoid raising too much capital. Reflecting on the $38 million that he raised for Fieldglass over 6 years, Jay Shekabut told me, in hindsight, we probably raised about $8 million too much, which makes for expensive equity at the relatively modest valuations back then. As David Packard, the founder of Hewlett-Packard, famously observed, more companies die of indigestion than from starvation. What he was trying to say was that companies with a great deal of capital are forced to make the hard economic choices that serve as the catalyst for innovation. Another school of thought is that companies should raise as much capital as they can, when they can. Reid Hoffman and Chris Ye articulate the logic for this view in their most recent book, Blitzscaling. Raising enormous amounts of capital, in their view, acts as a signal to the financial markets that the company has increased the probability of locking up its market and building a dominant position. The emphasis, they argue, should be on acquiring a strong user base, if necessary at the expense of profits. The archetype company that has employed this model is Uber, which raised $24.3 billion over the 12 years prior to its 2019 IPO. Sidecar, the company that introduced the peer-to-peer taxi service model in 2000, raised a comparatively puny $35.5 million, was unable to match the scale of Uber's investments, and was forced to exit. So here's the decision for you. How much capital do you need, and what kind of capital will it be?